Hey everyone, just a quick reminder for you all. I've got a fantasy adventure webcomic called Phoenix Rising available to read over on webtoons.com right now. Follow the link in the description box down below to check it out. Greetings and salutations, friends and gamers of all stripes. My name is GM Dave. I am your man behind the screen. Welcome now to the fourth installment of our mini-series on character backgrounds and motivations, where we will be looking finally at familial love. Now, as mentioned last time with romantic love, familial love can overlap with romantic love in a lot of ways, particularly if you are running it from the concept of you're married to someone and you want to have children with them, or you want to get married to someone and start a family. Romantic and familial love can share some very close bonds because of that simple, basic desire to start a family, to get married, to build a life with someone else that you care for. But again, similarly to faith, it's a driver that we begin to see a little bit less of in modern times. And when we do see it, most of the time, it's couched in tragedy, which I think is so unfortunate, because familial love can provide you with one of the best rewards, the best goals to come back to out of all the other ones. You have your family that you can go back to, or your family that you can try and start. That is a hugely powerful motivator for people. Family is one of the strongest things that can drive us. You know, we want, most of us, to start families. We want to be there for our families when things are bad, to celebrate with our families when things are good. Family is a very, very important thing to the human experience, and so it's a shame that when it comes to our D&D characters, our tabletop characters, we so often couch it in the idea of tragedy, and the idea of family being lost to us. And I myself have done this too. Those of you who have watched my video discussing different ways to create interesting and engaging evil player characters may remember when I discussed my evil alchemist, Freyka, whose driving motivator, whose initial push into the world of adventure was the untimely and unjust death of her family, her son and husband murdered in an assassination attempt that was targeted at her. Well, the trick with Freyka, as opposed to so many other characters who are driven by familial tragedy, your Batman archetypes, if you will, is that Freyka's initial push into the world of adventure was the tragedy, was the desire for vengeance, all of that. But her driving motivator was love for her family and the opportunity to get them back. So, the thing with family love, what makes it tricky is that all of the elements need work. It's not just the background, it's not just the motivation, it's not just the goal. All of these need to be looked at carefully. And that's why I put this one last, because even though it's a pretty easy one to figure out, once we really get the ball rolling on it, it is one that at every stage we should be talking with and working with our GMs on, because of the simple fact that, well, if you're building a family, or if you have a family that you want to go back to, or what have you, your GM's going to need to make NPCs for them. They're going to need to make these characters with your help, because they're characters that are your character's family. They're going to be defined, they should be defined largely by you. So work with your GM with that in terms of the background. But more importantly, when it comes to the background, you need to figure out if your character has a deep love of your family, wants to be there with them, wants to have a life with them, be that parents and siblings, or wife and or husband and children, however you're setting it up. You need to figure out in your background, what is it that can push this family person out into the world? And to bring back another character that I've discussed in previous videos, we're going to take a look at the character of Brynjar, my cleric of Thor that I made for a couple of games a while back. Now, Brynjar's initial big pusher was actually faith. However, the thing that finally pushed him to leave his home, even though he really did want to stay with his family, apart from wanderlust, because he was a farm boy, a rural farm boy who never really had the chance, the opportunity to explore the world. So apart from a wanderlust, a desire to see the world, what it really was that pushed him to leave his family and go explore the world and go adventure and, do these great things and under the name and blessing of Thor was really so that he could bring a sense of pride and glory back to his family name. He wanted to make a name for himself, to make his family proud of him, to bring a little bit of fortune and fame to them through his exploits so that he could uplift them out of relatively difficult, or actually not even relatively, a very difficult and rough lifestyle. They were farmers they were farmers in a tundra, where many months out of the year it's cold and difficult to grow things, where they had to deal with wild animals and other dangerous threats. Brynjar wanted more than anything to find a way to lift his family out of that, and this blessing that he received from Thor through the great deed that he did as a child, which was taking up his father's arms to save his father from a large wolf that was about to kill him, even though he was only 11 years old. Well, it was his love for his family, his desire to see them reach a better place, and the knowledge that through his own strength, his own ability, he could do that, which ultimately drove him to leave, even though he wanted to stay with them. So, consider the most important factor in your background is going to be, what is it that drives your character to leave? What is it that drives your character to go out into the world when, if they already have a family established, they could just stay with their family? Or perhaps your character is going out into the world because he wants to find a family for himself or herself. Maybe your character wants to make a family, but he or she can't where they are. The place that they're at is just not possible for them. It's not feasible. It's not reasonable. So they decide to go out into the world and explore and adventure in order to find their place and maybe find that person or those people who they can start a family with. Now, the great thing about this is, like I said, this can tie into directly with that idea of romantic love. So you can use those dual motivators, those dual cores to push this forward if you're taking this approach. This also means that within the right group, within the right context, if you've got the correct group of people who are willing to do this, you can very easily make it so that your character and another player character can be the ones who come together to build that family. Maybe it ends up being that the person that your character is romantically interested in is, well, ends up being one of the other PCs. And if another player agrees to that, if they agree that, yeah, that makes sense, my character wants the same sort of thing, they want to make a family, and, like, your characters hit it off. And this is something that can very, very easily be done if you've got couples who are playing the game together. This is a great way for them to kind of explore that, express that, and hell, even sometimes sort of like re-explore and relive, youthful love that they had in the past. This is a way they can do that through the game, as long as you don't push things too far. But this is another way in which you can explore the familial love. You can use it to sort of push and drive things forward for you. Which then leads to, what is your motivator? Well, your core motivation is always going to tie back to your family, or it should in some way. It should tie back to that desire for your family. So, again, talk with your GM. Figure out what is the overall course of this game? What's the plot? What's the setting? What's the style and theme of the campaign you're going to be playing in? And how then can you tie that into that pusher, that driver that is familial love? A lot of times it's going to be something simple like, this threat directly threatens my family, and I have the power to help fight against it, so I'm going to do that to defend my family. Sometimes it could even be something like with Brynjar, where it's like, my family is poor, they live a hard life. With the skills that I've developed, I can go into the world, I can bring money back, I can bring fame to our name, and make a better place for us when I return. Figuring out, nailing down that motivator is going to be key to making sure that your character sticks it out. Because, ideally, since your character's motivation is their family, then one of the things that should be getting explored with them is the idea that, well, they're going to miss their family. They're going to want to go back to their family. So, how are they going to keep going when they miss their family? The motivator needs to be strong. The motivator needs to be something major that will keep them out there. And part of that motivator really should be the party. The party are the friends that you're going to be adventuring with. The bonds that you develop with them can sort of work into the idea of your character building a second family for themselves through the party. So consider that possibility as well. Talk with the GM, talk with the other players about this one too. Because this is the one that can really tie into everything around it. Lastly, the goal. The goal is to make or return to your family. When it comes to familial love, the goal always revolves around the creation or the return to family. Now, the return to family is a more nebulous thing here than it might seem like. Because the immediate thought would be like, okay, yeah, so he's talking about like Brynjar, how Brynjar wants to go back to his family. He wants to go into the world, make that name for himself, and bring wealth and prosperity back to his family with him. But there's more to it than just that. Freyka, who lost her family, wants to bring them back. That's a return to family. Other characters who maybe lost their family, or for whatever reason, maybe their family cast them out. Maybe they weren't accepted for whatever reason, and the family that they love, maybe they turned their back on them or something. Who knows? The return to family does not necessarily have to mean the return to the family you've established. And that's the trick. Remember, I mentioned the idea earlier, just a few minutes ago, about how the party can also represent a new family for your character. Realizing that with this character, realizing that, hey, the one thing I've really wanted was to find and create a family for myself. You guys have stayed with me through all of this. You have become as brothers and sisters to me. The party is your family. You've returned to your family. It's not the family that you were born into, but you returned to your family. You were without one, you returned to one. That also can be considered the creation of family as well, but you can see now how these sort of concepts go relatively hand in hand. The point is, when it comes to the background, the motivation, and the goal, it all ties into gaining that family, or bettering that family. Sometimes even both. The concept of family permeates everything there, just as is the case with all of these concepts. However, that permeation, in my opinion, is probably the deepest with this particular concept. Family is of all these four drivers, in my opinion, family is the most powerful one, except for maybe faith. I think faith is the only other one that almost matches it. Romantic love and duty are definitely strong, don't get me wrong, but family and faith are the two strongest. And family, because of its strength, can then work with all the other ones. In fact, all of these can work within these other ideas. And that's what we're going to discuss next time in the final video on this mini-series. And so with that, friends and gamers of all stripes, we've reached the end of our discussion on familial love. If the video, please feel free to leave it a like, comment below with your own thoughts, and make sure to hit that subscribe and notification bell. More importantly, please, if you found this video useful and interesting, share it around to some friends or even family that you think might enjoy this as well. Make sure to open up the description box, down below to follow me on my social media presences, including my BitChute and Minds page, which are the two most important places to follow me. BitChute is becoming more and more important recently with the way YouTube has been tightening things up. So I would highly recommend, if you follow me here, make sure to follow me on BitChute as well. All of my videos should be collated over there. If they're not, I'm going to be going through again recently just to make sure everything that I've got here on YouTube is also over on BitChute. And I do want to note that depending on how things go, I might be moving to, actually I'm pretty likely to be moving to making BitChute my primary platform over YouTube if things keep being as sour as they are. I'll still be uploading the videos to YouTube, but really it's going to be BitChute that I primarily interact with if things continue to keep going as south as they have been. Lastly, please take a look at Phoenix Rising and some of my other projects, which is another reason I also recommend following me on Minds, because if you want notifications for my other projects, Minds is the best place to follow me in order to get those. And so, with that amble all done and out of the way, friends and gamers of all stripes, once again, my name is GM Dave. I am your man behind the screen. And remember, when it comes to the world of tabletop gaming, don't just watch. Get out there and game. Have a good one.